If you can persist in brushing your teeth with your left hand for 2 weeks, what will happen? The answer might exceed your expectations. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology conducted an experiment where volunteers brushed their teeth with their non-dominant hand, the one they don't usually use. The brain scans after 2 weeks showed that the activity in the area responsible for connecting the left and right hemispheres increased by 40%. But that is not the most shocking part. These volunteers expressed in interviews that they felt like they were only living with half a brain before, and this became one of the significant discoveries in neuroscience in 2019. Da Vinci's manuscripts show that he could draw with his left hand and write with his right hand, even simultaneously. Tesla was even more extreme. He forced himself through training to become ambidextrous from being right-handed. Historians have found that many cross-disciplinary geniuses, such as Da Vinci, Tesla, and Michelangelo, share a common trait. They do not rely on a single dominant hand and excel at making the left and right brain work together. For these geniuses, this is a deliberate brain reshaping technique. This is something that modern neuroscience has only confirmed in recent years. When we overly rely on one hand, usually the right hand, we are actually using only half of our brain's potential, while the other half remains in a long-term dormant state. A Yale University report shows that any ordinary person who starts using their non-dominant hand will experience a remarkable brain evolution after 30 days. Hello Earthlings, I am Lao Ma. Let's start today with the hand you use to brush your teeth to upgrade your brain hardware on a physical level. First, we need to understand why our brain resists switching hands to do things. You must know that the brain only accounts for 2% of body weight, but consumes 20% of the energy. So, evolving into an autopilot mode when doing things with the right hand, the brain conserves energy by solidifying neural circuits, becoming almost inactive. However, the moment you switch the toothbrush to the left hand for the brain, a disaster occurs. The clumsiness, sluggishness, and even the frustration that makes you want to get angry are actually the brain's internal air raid alarm going off. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, abbreviated as MIT, refer to this state as emergency mode. Because you have broken the inertia, the brain regions that were originally dormant are forced to activate. This emergency mode is too taxing on the brain. Fortunately, I found that the science videos I saved before sleep can be resumed directly on Qishui Music, automatically locating the last played position. You can continue listening with your eyes closed without holding the phone to find your progress. Try it in the lower left corner. The research data is shocking for a right-handed adult. If forced to use the left hand for daily activities in just 2 weeks, the activity of the bridge connecting the left and right brain hemispheres, the corpus callosum, will increase by 40%. What is the corpus callosum? It is the highway in your brain with 20 billion nerve fibers. In autopilot mode, this highway is almost empty, but when you clumsily start using your left hand, this highway instantly gets jammed. The left and right brains must start frantically exchanging information and coordinating actions. The 40% increase in activity is not just a number, it is your brain being physically expanded. But this is just the beginning. Deeper changes occur on a microscopic level. Here we need to introduce a core concept, neuroplasticity. Do you think the brain is fixed after adulthood? No. The brain is more like a piece of clay rather than cement. When you endure the clumsiness of your left hand trying to get the spoon into your mouth, your brain starts to secrete a special substance called myelin to adapt to this pressure. It's okay if you don't understand. Just think of it as wrapping your brain's wires with a layer of insulating tape, preventing leaks and making it run faster. Imagine that the original neural pathways in your brain are like old telephone copper wires, inefficient and prone to interruptions. Myelin is like an insulator, the brain's insulating tape. When you keep practicing with your non-dominant hand, the brain frantically wraps myelin around these new neural pathways. Stanford University's research found that the signal transmission speed of nerve pathways wrapped in myelin can increase by 100 times or more. What does this mean? It means you are upgrading your brain's copper wire network to a fiber optic network. This upgrade is physical, like learning to ride a bicycle. The body forms a permanent memory. When you feel frustrated and your movements are jerky, that's actually the moment when myelin is being generated. This is exactly the same logic as in the gym. The repair of torn muscle fibers can make muscles bigger. Similarly, the repair of neural circuits after cognitive friction can make the brain faster. So next time you feel awkward brushing your teeth with your left hand, remember that's the sound of your brain's hardware upgrading. You might ask, even if my left hand becomes more dexterous, right? What else is it useful for besides being able to eat with both hands simultaneously? Neuroscientists at Oxford University have discovered that the formation of this phenomenon and the activation of neurons are not limited to the motor cortex. It spreads like ripples. Where does it spread? It spreads to adjacent areas. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision-making, abstract thinking, and emotional control. There is also a more critical area, the hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain. Research from Stanford shows that training with the non-dominant hand can trigger neurogenesis, which means the birth of brand new neurons in the hippocampus. This usually only happens when learning a completely new language. But training with the other hand accelerates this process. The result of this physiological change is an improvement in divergent thinking. A joint study by Harvard and Yale found that people who frequently use both hands can come up with 25% more solutions to complex problems than those who predominantly use one hand. Why? Because the left brain is responsible for logic and linear thinking, and the right brain is responsible for intuition and holistic images. When you force them to collaborate intensively through the corpus callosum, you are no longer looking at problems with half your brain, but scanning them with your whole brain. This is also why Einstein said that the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. This imagination often arises at the moment of breaking conventions. Instead of saying more, let's do an instant test right now. Please pause what you're doing and now try to raise your non-dominant hand. Try to snap your fingers or use this hand to write your name backward in the air. Do you feel it? That extremely awkward, jerky, even laugh-inducing clumsiness. Pay attention to this feeling. Researchers at Cambridge University believe that this clumsiness is actually your brain hitting a wall and being forced to find new paths to overcome it within milliseconds. This is an extremely valuable experience. This is called deep encoding. At this moment, you are in a state of absolute alertness. You cannot get distracted while writing your name backward with your left hand. This explains why the Cambridge study found that writing with the non-dominant hand can improve working memory by 18%. Because you deprive the brain of the right to be lazy, you force it to concentrate fully on every tiny movement. Benjamin Franklin forced himself to practice with his non-dominant hand every day, not just for balance, but for this enforced alertness. In a world where 90% of the time is governed by algorithms, habits, and inertia, this deliberately created discomfort is the best way to stay alert. So, can ordinary people really upgrade their brains? The answer is yes. But don't try to write an 800-word article with your left hand immediately after watching the video. You won't last a day. That's not training, it's torture. MIT developed a micro-incremental method with a 20-minute rule. It's simple, just use your non-dominant hand for 20 minutes a day. In the first stage, for the first 14 days, start with simple actions, only doing the most basic movements. Brushing teeth, opening doors, holding a cup, pressing elevator buttons, using the TV remote for a total of 20 minutes each day. This is MIT's 20-minute rule, which can trigger neuroplasticity without being too difficult to make you give up. The second stage, from the 15th to the 21st day, involves refined control. Start trying activities that require hand-eye coordination, such as using your left hand to hold a spoon while eating, drawing simple circles and squares on paper, or trying to use the mouse with your left hand for 10 minutes. The third stage, deep restructuring after the 22nd day. At this point, you can try writing your name or even a short phrase. You will find that compared to the first day, your control has made a qualitative leap. You can save it, follow the stages, and observe the changes later. But you must know, this is a marathon, not a 100-meter sprint. You might feel a sense of frustration or awkwardness. If it makes you feel extremely irritated emotionally, please shorten the time because this is about challenging yourself, not causing panic. The purpose of this training is not to make you an ambidextrous performer, but to regain control over your body. Don't let your life unconsciously slip away in the mediocrity of autopilot. How about it? Can you challenge yourself to pick up the toothbrush with the other hand starting tonight when you get home? Although it may feel uncomfortable, embrace this awkwardness because at that moment, you are trying to upgrade your brain, consciously directing your body and forcing dormant neurons to awaken so geniuses may not be born. Perhaps they are just those who know how to make their brains grow. So, start brushing your teeth with the other hand tonight. See you in the comments section in 30 days.